hopefully that's working. This is like a test. I don't really know how to do any of this stuff very well. I was a chef for a long time, so uh, hopefully I can get all of that right. I don't know. We shall see, I assume. All right. Well, here in a second, I'm gonna start painting. I'm gonna paint this fun little thing, little gal right here. It's my mother loves Halloween, and so for Christmas I printed this up and I'm gonna paint it for her. It's a sculpt by Loot. If you're not familiar with their stuff, I told you should totally get their subscription. Their stuff is absolutely amazing. It's some of the best I've ever seen for the STL stuff. So it's pretty outstanding. Okay, I just make sure this is working. I don't know if it is or not. I think I'm a little early, or maybe right on time. I'm not sure. Let's see. Hopefully it's all linked up and working properly. But I don't know. Especially because this is the first one, so there's like no one out there. I just make sure this is working. And I think it is working. I think it is working just fine. So, all right. I guess we're going to start painting. So brushes and stuff. There's all sorts of different kinds of brushes that people like. I really like anything that's got Kolinsky sable to it. What you're looking for is, look for the, oh, this guy's all, of course it's all messed up when I'm trying to show it to you. And I'm licking my fingers. That's pretty gross. But anyway, you want this. There, right there. That word. Let's see if I can get it to zoom in. How do they do that? Anyway. Oh, I almost figured it out. Look at there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I'll try to remember how to add that to the doobly-doo things in the bottom. Anyway, so I like those the most. There's also a bunch of other kinds of tips to brushes and things like that. Some people like synthetics, and some people don't. It's just kind of, I would definitely say, start off with brushes you can afford. Maybe this one's a little bit easier to read. Yeah, it is. It's not quite so small. So like brushes are a little it's just a little interesting because there's a lot of that opinion that goes into brushes and things like that. Also, I just picked up these. They're fun. This is by Army Painter. It's a dry brush, and they're fun. You can also use like a makeup brush if you have like the butt brush that the ladies use for their blush and things like that. You can buy those like on the cheap. But sometimes I feel like their handles are a little bit out of control. But this came in a set of 3. It came with this one, which I really have enjoyed using this one. I've used it so much I'm starting to get stuff up in the fold, which is not what you want to do. I think we all have that problem. And this one's a synthetic sable by Winsor & Newton. I got this one to try it out. I'm a big fan of Winsor & Newton's paints. And somebody was saying that their synthetic brushes are pretty good. And it's all right. It's not bad. So, anyway, and a lot of other people like to use things like airbrushes and stuff like that. And I have an airbrush, and I use it for larger projects. I did the primer on this in airbrush, which was that was easier to do than just jumping out in a rattle can, especially because it got cold last night and I didn't want to be outside. So anyway, the first thing we really need to do is probably throw down a base coat on everything. This is the part where you start to kind of pick out your colors and stuff like that. I've got my palette set up here. I don't use the kinds of stuff most people use. A lot of people will use Army Painters, different types. I'm really bad at this. There we go. I got to train myself to do this. That's why we're all here, just so that I can train myself to do it. So anyway, I used to teach culinary school, so I'm pretty good at the talking part. I've just got to get better at all these. So I've got a couple of these. I like some of the metallics that other brands make, and this one's a Citadel. So this will be by Games Workshop, which is Warhammer, which I have tons of Warhammer stuff. But what I use a lot of is more of these artistic acrylics. I love Golden, and I love Windsor and Newton. Golden, these are really, really great paints, but like these are super expensive. So it's not necessarily everybody's gig. And if you can't notice by looking at it, they're a whole lot thicker. So they're not, oh man, it's hard to explain what that means, that they're a whole lot thicker. But it means what it means. So it's a thicker, kind of just a thicker paint. I'll use it to water down so that I can keep the consistencies the way I want them to be. So I don't have to go, oh, well, this paint's too thin, I don't like it, or that paint's too thick, I don't like it, or whatever. I can just kind of do whatever I want. So anyway, I think we have like one or two people watching. This paint's too thin, I don't like it, or that paint's too thick, I don't like it, and whatever. I can just kind of. That's me playing in the background. I'm gonna mute myself. I gotta get better at learning how to like tell what's going on. Oh man, a few of my friends are pretty good at this stuff, so hopefully they can teach me a little bit of how to do this some more. Because I know they're gonna watch this later, and they're totally gonna make fun of me, and that's totally cool. I'm totally all right with it. Anyway, so I'm just gonna start painting, and I'll kind of talk as I'm going through things. First thing you want to do is get your brushes wet. I have two types of wet water I'll use. I'll use this as I got my one water that's for like knocking paint off brushes, and then see, and there we go, broken something already. I'll fix it later. That's like the third time I've broken the magic thing off of the top of her wand, so I'll probably gotta put that on like later. That's one of the things about resin models that I've noticed about other models, is that like I have a tendency to snap little pieces off of them, because especially if I'm not paying enough attention to something. And you get your more plastic models, more official models, things like like Citadel's models, or in your car models that you get from things like Revell or GMI or any of those guys. Those models, plastics are like a whole lot tougher than your acrylics, so they don't stand up quite the same. Anyway, all that being said, I usually lay down my darkest colors first. So I want her skirt to be a real dark purple to start off with. Wonder how much I ran my mouth. Probably for a long time. Oh no, 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's not bad. So we got two really dark purples that I like to use as my base on all my purples. If you're a fan of any of my other social media stuff, I've got stuff where I've painted what's called Tyranids. It's another Warhammer deal. And I keep this paper towel to kind of just blot off excess water. If I've got too much water on my brush and I don't want to thin out my paint too much, then I can take the excess water off of it, and go back through and make the consistency right. Because I want the paint to be thin enough to kind of jump into these cracks with ease, but I don't want it so thin that I've got to come back and do a whole bunch of layers and layers and layers and layers. Layers and layers and layers of paint on these little tiny models make them kind of the fun parts of them disappear. So you don't want to get too many layers of paint on it, which is why you really want to, try to keep your first coat pretty precise. You're going to probably make some mistakes on the first coats. We're going to come up and touch that stuff up later. But we want to keep it pretty tight because we want to avoid having to do layers. And that's another reason why I say do all your dark colors first. Because if you do all your dark colors first, then you can, as you layer up, you can bring the different parts up. That's my dog tapping around in the back. I wonder what she's doing. She probably wants to go outside again. It is a constant battle for those of you who have pets with their ever need for attention. She may have just wondered who I was talking to. The cats don't ask because they talk to things that we don't see all the time. If you have a cat, you know what I'm talking about. Cats are strange. So anyway, we're trying to get real nice and deep. Ooh, there we go. I gotta maybe aim this camera a little bit better. Get the light out of the way, Pat. There we go. Oh, there we go. That's better, right? I think that's better. And again, next time I'm going to learn how to actually read everybody's comments. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to like film and, well, maybe if I'm on YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, it seems like everything's working just fine. So I'm just going to keep painting. It's also it would be really hard to look over and look at everybody's questions while I'm doing this. But I'm going to try, again, this is my first time, painting, live like this. So I'm not, I'm definitely not an expert. So anyway, that's funny. I don't even see a chat on YouTube either, so I might just be tripping. I might just be worrying about nothing. Like I said, some friend of mine will clue me in on what to do and how to make this work right. I got a lot more techie friends, or at least friends that are way more techie than me. There we go. That's better. I should just learn how to paint by looking at the video. That's how I should do this. Although, it would be significantly difficult given the way it zooms in and out on occasions. Now, something like this, sometimes you might want a paint handle. Paint handles are interesting. Some people really like them. Some people aren't. I'm a big fan of them. I sometimes like them. Her already breakable condition and propensity makes me want to say no, that I don't really want to put her on the paint handle, because they are not the most stable of things when they're sitting down while you're doing other things. So I definitely don't I don't want to invite more disaster onto our poor lady of the night here. Oh, Lord. Not that kind of lady of the night. Or maybe she is. I'm not making that kind of judgment. She's definitely a witch. And she's a fun little witch. And we're going to paint her up to look real cute for my mom for Christmas. Because that's what you do. She doesn't want me to buy her anything or anything like that. She doesn't have anything she wants in that sort of way. So she's like, oh, don't buy me anything. I'm like, okay, well, I was already going to cook Christmas dinner with my sister and my lovely girlfriend, Kristen. And so it's kind of like, well, shoot, what do I do now? I can make her something Christmassy, and she likes Christmas stuff all right, but she really digs Halloween. It just so happened I had this model. Well, I had the SDL file in my repertoire of printable things. Not really sure what you call that. I own rights to it. It's online. Again, it's a loot file. They're really awesome. Those guys make the coolest stuff. So if you're into painting, and this is like totally a free plug for these guys, because I don't have any sponsorships or anything, but like those guys, they make the coolest models or STL files. I'm an old guy, so I'm always going to say models. I think it's hard for me to think about it as not a model, because or a miniature. We used to say miniatures. I guess I could call them that more. But when they're this cool, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so far beyond what miniatures used to be. Somewhere around here, I have some really old Ralpartha miniatures that are like super weird. When you look at those and you look at what miniatures look like today, it's like, holy smokes, what happened? All right, so there's our nice little purple deal. I'm still letting this hole breathe. This hole is for when you print things, especially when it's a solid chunk. You don't necessarily want to print it completely solid. It's not always like the greatest for your printer. It also uses a lot of your resin, and so it needs a few more days to breathe. I can tell just because I can kind of feel the moisture in it when I tip it upside down. Sometimes you can see a little bit of water to come out of it, and you can definitely see where it had been oozing out for a couple days. I'll plug that up with some mill put. We're only gonna go for like an hour here, and then I'm probably gonna work on this for a while. It'll take several sessions of painting this if I'm gonna do an hour at a time. But especially with this first session, it's been learning and but as we go, we'll plug this up with some mill put or something that's gonna fill up the hole, and then we'll file it down and make it look really nice. And I didn't do a lot of the work on camera where you have to take it off the supports and stuff like that. Maybe I can do that another time if people are interested in those sort of things. So definitely leave those comments down there. Kind of tell me, hey, let's do this, let's do that. I got a couple really cool things that I wanna do as we go. I don't know how I did all that. Anyway, yeah, so let's see. We're definitely going to do a black cloak, right? Because it's a wedge. So let's do the inside part of this cloak. We'll do the outside again when we get the mill put in. I probably check it tonight. I think it's almost done. I printed this like 2-3 days ago. So I just like to make sure it's got plenty of time. Yeah, one of the things that can happen if you don't let it get all of its gas out and make sure it's cleaned out really good is they can kind of crumble from the inside. They'll just something on the inside just gives way and they just kind of crumble. It's really wild. I'm not sure if that's because of the excess cleaner that's sitting in it or what it is, but there's something happens to them. Again, keeping my brush wet as I'm going through this is super important. If you don't keep your brush super wet, then it will, especially with the kind of paint and the technique I use, it will really thicken up on you really quickly. And it is definitely not what you want to happen, because it can tear up your brushes and it can make things look not the way you want them to look. So if you're trying to kind of use the same paints I use and stuff like that, then you definitely want to keep that brush mighty wet. Now those other paints, the Army Painter and the Citadel, they also have that too. You don't have to keep your brush quite as wet with those as you do with to keep the consistency right with these. Whoop. But you definitely need to keep your brushes wet. So always, keep them wet. It's like old Bob Ross. He used to like smack that thing around. I'm gonna should get a can down here so I can do it like old Bobby. That's where I learned to paint, actually, between Bob Ross and my Aunt Kathy, who, if you ever see this, Aunt Kathy, thank you so much for teaching me how to paint when I was a little kid. Oh, and I learned to paint miniatures, actually. I didn't learn to paint miniatures until like way later, which is probably why I prefer these other paints. I didn't learn how to paint miniatures until an old friend of mine named Eric Miller. I started hanging out with him, and he was into Warhammer and stuff like that, and so I learned how to paint miniatures just because I liked the idea of painting miniatures. And then I got into Warhammer, and I love Warhammer's 40K's myth. I love old fantasies myth, even Age of Sigmar is great, or lore, whatever you call it, myth, lore, whatever. I love that stuff. I'm not a big player of the game. I play it occasionally. I play it more now because I have kids and like they love it. So, but I love painting miniatures. I really dig it. Now that I'm kind of retired from chef life, this is what I do all day. So my friends were like, "Well, shoot, Pat, you should paint on YouTube." There we go. We'll get that back in frame. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I should paint on YouTube, I guess." Okay. And it took me a while to get enough courage to start doing this, but here we are. Now here, I could probably just cover this rock in black as well. But I'm not sure if I want this stone to be black yet. I may go with some other color, or gray. You know, a lot of people do gray stone and stuff like that. This is a really cool kind of marble slate, maybe flagstone or sandstone. There's all sorts of colors we could paint this. So I don't necessarily want to. To paint it black because I don't know that I need the black to be the base. It may need to be brown instead. So I'm gonna avoid trying to paint my base just yet. I could have like not attached the base to it until I was ready to paint it or whatever. But this base fits straight on her, and she's so spindly that like it's just gonna be easier to paint her like this. And yeah, so here we are. Really wonder if anybody's watching. I mean, I know Kristen's watching. Hello, honey, I love you. Thank you for watching my show. Eventually, I'm gonna have like 100 people watching, maybe 200 people, maybe more. Who knows? So, like I said, what we're doing today is we're going to try and spend about an hour putting down a base coat. I got a little bit of water off of that side of my brush there to thin that paint out just a little bit. Like I said, when you're working with these thicker paints, it's sometimes better if you keep that brush super wet and just keep bringing a little bit of water over when you need it. But you also are going to like to have it thick when you need it to be thick so that you can leave like a dot on something or stuff like that. It also seems to work better in these wet palettes, in my opinion. They don't run and stuff like those other ones. If I close this palette down and I come back to it like tomorrow, then like if it's a Warhammer or an Army Painter paint, it'll run all over the place. But these thicker paints don't run, and I have animals and kids and crazy life. I play taxi a lot, so for all their various sports and activities. So I have to close up shop a lot, and so it's a whole lot easier to have a wet palette. And of course, I made this one, and I think I'm going to get one for Christmas. I don't know. We'll see. But I've experimented with different ones, different paints in the palette, different brands and stuff like that. And that is the one thing I've noticed, is that the thinner paints, they run more in your wet palette overnight. These thicker paints don't run quite as much. Like I said, I can thin it out as much as I want. But again, it is a lot more of an initial cost, and there's not quite as many colors. So you have to really know your color wheel, and you have to know how to fade, and you have to know how to alter and mix, and there's a lot more involved there than, you know, just buying all these colors and following you know, just three different tones and bringing it up and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a different technique than, you know, a standard miniature painter does, which I think is fun. And that's kind of why I was like, okay, well, what do I bring to the table? Like, what, you know, when I thought about all this YouTube stuff and whether or not this was something we really should be doing, I was like, okay, well, what do you bring to the table? What makes you different than every other YouTube painter out there? And I was like, okay, well, there's only a few of us that really paint more of with a thicker, more artsy style paint. Most people use the standard model paints and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a little bit of something there. I'm a little bit of I use a different style. That'll be all right, you know. And then I was like, oh, well, you know, I'm kind of a different personality. So maybe people will think I'm funny or entertaining. And I can talk. I can talk forever. I don't literally used to get in trouble for not being able to shut up. So I can fill an hour of just voidless nothingness, just talking to myself if I have to. I'm pretty good at that part. So as long as I can keep my mouth under control. I don't know about her hat. You know, traditionally a witch would have the black hat. So maybe we do a black hat. We can give her a colored band, and she's got these little chickens. There we go. Maybe. There we go. You can see how she's got a couple different little bird skulls on it or whatever. There we go. That's what's zooming in better. You can see these bird skulls hanging out, or crow skulls, or whatever they're supposed to be. They're cool. Ravens, whatever you want. So I don't know about that one. I definitely know. Let's see, her little coif here is going to be white, right? It's going to be white. And I was thinking about her shirt. Maybe needs to be orange, maybe. And then we can do green for her corset. Or we do it the other way around. I go orange on the corset. And we go green for the shirt. I like that. Okay, so we're going to do orange bodice or corset, or I don't actually know the difference very well. I probably used to in another time, but anymore I only have so much information I can keep in my head. So this is a vermilion hue, which is kind of like vermilion. It's like reddish orange. It's more red, or maybe, like I said, orange is red. So it's more red than it is orange. And we're gonna run that as our base coat, and then I'll come back later and I'm gonna put in that cadmium later. She's got a nice little belt here, and we'll probably put a dark brown on there. Most likely a burnt umber. And then we'll come back and finish it up with some sienna. Again, I'm not terribly worried about maybe getting onto other places that I don't want color because I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a lot of other pieces, a lot of other things to the piece. And I'll have other colors transitioning in and out, and and I'll be able to hide and fix that stuff as I come through and put the final coats on things. So right now we're just trying to get our first base in and have it done, so we have an idea where we're going to go. Speaking of, just a little bit of burnt umber. I should probably figure out what kind of music I could play on YouTube while I'm doing this. I bet you we could play Christmas carols or something funky like that, just to be a weirdo. I wonder if there's a public domain for music. I know there is for writing and stuff like that, so I'm sure there is for music. I'd have to look it up. Or somebody in the comments can drop me those answers, since, you know, the great fabulous hive mind that is the interwebs knows a lot of things. Okay, so that looks like it's actually like a real skull. So we're going to treat it like a real skull, right? So what I like to do when I make a skull, I'm going to go ahead with my raw umber. I want to get in to the edges of it, especially the stuff back here in the back where I need the shadows to be good. You gotta work on getting this camera to sit right. Oh, it almost had it. It wanted to look at the skull real bad. It's a tiny little skull. So anyway, we're gonna get in here and we're gonna paint this little skull with just a little bit, and we're just trying to get around these edges. Anywhere where we're going to have that shadow. I want to use the black on this because it can't get quite the same effect with the black as I do with the brown. I like this brown, just the base of it, just to give it that. It'll work better as I fade it up, because I'll come back with a Naples yellow and I'll finish it. Maybe a wash or two to really get it done. Okay. And then we'll see. Some amount of green for her shirt. Girl's got hair going everywhere. I kind of got to the point where, like, I was setting up this forever. And, you know, I'd done a couple test things on different platforms and stuff like that before I came to over here on YouTube. And I just kept messing with it, and I couldn't decide how I wanted to do this, or what I wanted to do, or whether it was right or was ready, or blah, 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 blah. And then I remembered this thing we used to say when we were in the restaurant business, which was, just get open. I used to say that like all the time. Just get open, just get open. Anybody who was trying to open a restaurant, that's what they say. My friend Sean Cummings is the one who told me that first. He said, just get open, just get open. He said all the time, just get open, just get open. Any project you ever get on, just get open, just get open. So I decided to just get open. And here we are. I think that's my phrase of the day. Again, I'm going to try to get in here. These base pieces, I'm not terribly worried about finishing off. I might do white on her little cuff there, just to give her some white lace on the cuff. That would be really cool. And this phthalo, this is a phthalo green, so it's probably going to take more than one coat to really get it in there. Is it about centering? There we go. That's about centered. So again, especially these white places, try to be as careful as you can, because like painting over things over with white is not the easiest game in the world. It is going to be difficult. It will always kind of take a little time. Sometimes you can come back and you can put a little water on there and flush it out, and you're okay. But sometimes you can't, and you just have to paint over it. So try to be super careful, especially something that's dark colored like this phthalo green. This phthalo green is going to be, it's dark, so you know, where the cloak's going to be black, it's not a big deal. But if you're talking about places that are going to be white, that's going to be a problem for us down the road. If I get it on too much wear, I want it white. So that's where I want to be careful. I said this cuff right here, I want to be careful about painting that with green. So I think sometimes it's really good for you to kind of understand where you can mess up, so that you can kind of bring that in, and where you can't. So, you know, if the orange comes over to where the green is going to be, or that vermilion, the green is probably going to cover up a lot of that color without much of a problem. But, you know, if you're trying to put yellow on top of a green, you're still going to see the green coming through. Or, you know, a lighter pink, or, you know, and sometimes it has to do with the actual, you know what, I think that's part of her cloak. I don't think that's part of her shirt. It happens to me all the time. I think you'll agree that this section right here is probably part of her shirt. Purple, or cape, cloak. It is indeed. It is indeed. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that we're gonna take care. I'm gonna just take care of this shoulder. Like I said, we're gonna come back after today. After we get done painting, I'll plug up that hole with some mill put, and then we'll. Really got to get in the habit of checking that camera. I need my friend, I need some friends to come over and help me figure out all that stuff. I'll see them in a couple of days, I'm sure. Like I said, we're just kind of blocking out colors today. Kind of getting an idea what we're going to do with the overall piece. Getting those things. What did oh, there we go. That's what I needed to do. Hey, looky there. I'm sorry for everybody who's been looking at it and it's been really fucked off. I shouldn't have said that out loud. I gotta get better. I lived in a kitchen, so I sometimes say bad words, and I definitely apologize. Luckily, I think I'm really far in, so I don't think the YouTube censors would catch me. I just, oof. I really gotta learn. I gotta learn to watch my language in the first place. Any of you kids that heard me say that is not how you should behave. Kitchens are a bad place to pick up how to speak. You will definitely say bad words, and you'll sound like an uncultured heathen, of which I am not. So it is really funny that I occasionally break off into bad words. We just need to try not to. Although my favorite YouTuber, he will jump into some pretty bad words. Shout out to Simon Whistler, if you know who that is. He's pretty epic. But I never hear Luton say anything bad like that. So I'm trying to put in a little bit of skin on her. We're going to way darken this up later with some washes. I just want to kind of knock about right now. I like how she's got that old 50s pinup kind of look, you know, where she's kind of like almost on the side of the bomber. see her hanging out on the side of a B-17 flying over France. A lot of fun. Fun piece. These little nooks and crannies are always fun to get into. Whoop! Again, that's not bad. So you can do that mistake, and we don't have to necessarily worry about it. But I'll show you a trick. So as long as you can get it quick, if it's wet and you don't have wet, any other paint on top, you can sometimes pull that right off of there. So, and it sometimes works if the paint's dry enough. Especially if you're putting on a lighter color on top of a darker color, you can sometimes pull out that trick and it'll work for you. Definitely be super careful because you can rub off any of the paint that you've had on there before. So that's a thing. Now, one thing I try to keep in mind when I'm painting flesh is the direction that muscles kind of go. So that I can, because like if you just leave your brush strokes like this on a leg, it's going to look weird. So the muscle is going to move a certain direction. So if you can pull it in the direction where the muscles would normally go, the brush strokes kind of work for you and will give you, it'll look better. See, because we can really line down this shin. We know these muscles go this direction. They don't go that direction. So we want to make sure we keep our paints going that direction. It's the same thing with kind of like cloth and stuff like that. But some things doesn't matter. Some things you can kind of like hatch it out and stuff. I'm kind of wondering what color boots we should give her. We should give her black boots, or we should give her brown boots. I don't know. We'll figure that out later. For now, I'm going to finish up some of this flesh in here. Wow, I've already been going for a minute. 41 minutes. I do have a little clock. There we go. We'll start to see her pretty face. Now I like doing flesh in a different way. So I'm going to put this base coat down on this lighter color. And then I will come back and with some washes. And I make all my own washes. I don't typically buy washes. And I'll darken in her the crevices around all her features, and then we'll come back and we'll fix her. We'll get her face all set up for today. I just need to get this base color down on her. I want to get an idea of what I want to look at for the overall color scheme, because this one I just kind of came in to just kind of paint it. Because I just didn't know, honestly. I didn't know what colors, how I wanted the colors to go. I knew what colors I wanted. I just didn't know how I was going to put them on there until I got started. And that happens on things that aren't supposed to look a certain way, you know. If it's an army piece for a particular military unit, I'm going to make it look like that unit, you know. But if it's just a little witch for my mom, or, you know, some sort of player, character, or NPC for a D&D game, I'm going to paint it however I feel like painting it. Unless, of course, you know, specific instructions, blah, 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 blah. A little more flesh right here. That looks like some sort of bangles, maybe, gloves. It looks like there's some sort of glove that goes up through her fingers. And maybe a bracelet over the top of it. It's been a very, very interesting year for me. I'm sure it has been for everybody. Glad this one's wrapping up. It'll be good to get into the next one. I have this weird theory that even years are better than odd years. I don't know why, but typically it seems like things go better for people on even years than they do on odd years, or at least the world seems to. But because this year, this world has gone absolutely crazy. It's not always true though. So that's just me raving like a lunatic, which that's entertaining. Now a lot of times I'll do, you can see here where I'm like locking my fingertip into my other fingertip. That's to help me kind of like feel the distance as well as see it. I'm about to have to buy some brush sharpener. This old brush is starting to get a little frayed. I've had this one for a couple of years now. And it's not a Klinsky. Those dang Klinskys. I've had these two brushes, these two Klinsky brushes. I've had those things since I was like, we're not going to talk about it. Anyway, they're really old. They're probably old enough to drink. That's pretty old for a brush. And it doesn't seem to matter who makes them. If it's that particular type of brush material, and that's the sable that goes into the hairs of the brush itself. That particular Klinsky sable is just so superior. For me. Okay, so painting is definitely a opinion sport. They're going to have a lot of people that are going to tell you that I'm all wrong and that I don't do any of this right, and they're right. I don't do any of this right. And that's okay. Because the beauty of it is that you and I and everyone who gets involved in any kind of hobby like this gets to paint it however they want. And if you like the way I do things, then do it the way I do it. If you like to do it the way other people do it, then do that. So, and that's what I think is so much fun about it. Like, I've seen so many different styles and techniques. Some of them are not anything I would ever do. But they're so neat to see it, where you're like, wow, that's really cool. I would not have done that. And it's cool to see that, in my opinion. And I want everybody's art to look like mine. I want everybody's painting to look like mine. I want everybody's painting to look like theirs. If you want one of mine, buy one. But if you want to paint yours, then it should definitely look like your painting. You look like the way you wanted it to look. And if you're happy with it, then that's what matters. Don't let people talk you down. I see a lot of people talk other people's paint jobs down. And, shoot, when I was younger, I probably did it too. I was probably guilty of it. I think we all kind of poke fun at people's paintings and stuff like that. Paint jobs. It's happened. But it's definitely not the way it should be. We should all try to encourage each other to be better at painting and to practice our skill the way we want it to look for ourselves. So, we're starting to get there. Still got a few little detail pieces to pick out, and gotta make a decision on a boots and some hats and stuff. And looks like we've got, I'm guessing this is some sort of brocade. I can't tell if it is braided or if it's supposed to be a chain. Kind of like the idea of it being a chain. I like to have a little metal flash. One of the things I do when I'm doing metal, because this will give me a chance to lead into this. I segued. Look at me go. I don't want this to be real wet because I want it to just kind of, you know what, actually I'm going to switch brushes. Pull out something with a little bit smaller tip here. And there I go, forgetting to wet my brush. Look at me. Probably because we're getting towards the break time. Yeah, I gotta take a break at an hour. It's good to stand up every hour, guys. That's important, especially when you get older. You stand up every hour, so you can kind of stretch out, walk around. It's not good for our legs. I know a lot of us. I know a lot of guys that hobby are older guys like me. And guys, we got to stand up for real. It's important. I'm telling myself as much as I'm telling you. But you know, let me get that in there. Done. Yeah. And of course, that's not going to be anything we're going to see until later. But any of my metallics, I like to put a black down first, and then I'll come back and put the metallic on top of the black. To me, the metal, if you're using a metallic paint and you're not trying to do a non-metallic metal thing, then like your metallics will look better if black's underneath it. Okay, bring this Naples and yellow in here. And you should start to kind of see what I mean about using that brown. Again, we're going to come back later and finish this guy out with some washes and some things like that. But that brown is already, as long as I'm super careful with this brush, and I don't just glop my paint on, I'm already starting to get that skull to come out without much of a wash or much of a work. I'm not even really dry brushing it. I'm just using the colors on top of each other to help me transition. That super dark brown to this little bit of it's called Naples yellow is the actual name of this color. You can buy it in most of your finer acrylics. You can buy this color. I believe this one in particular is a Winsor Newton, which I have already gone into my spiel about their stuff. I love their paints. So we have that, and then back there's a little crystal jar. I'm going to leave it for now. It's all the way. I think it just flashed just barely. I got to figure out how to get that camera to focus good. There we go. You can just barely see that little guy right there. And it's some sort of little crystal flask, so I'm not exactly sure what it is. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to paint it. So we'll see. All right. I guess we should give her a big old black hat, huh? Maybe we can paint something on the inside of it. Freehand some stars or something. That'd be fun. This will be an easy piece to paint because we'll just have to get things right into the cracks. I'll go back to this bigger brush. And again, watch your brush strokes. It's okay to put it on there kind of every which way but loose at first. But then when you finish it up, you can kind of get it in there like this. You know. But when you finish it out, come back and make sure you're getting your brush strokes to match the direction of the hat. And you'll have a much better end result. I definitely like making sure I'm down in the edges. Sometimes that's definitely not going to be easy to pull all the way out. But, like I said, you just come back. Gotta get better about checking that camera. I definitely apologize to everybody there. All right. I'll have to make a choice on her hair color too. A little bit more here. Yeah. Again, I apologize if I'm missing any comments. I'm not actually sure how to make that work exactly right. So I tried to pull up YouTube and look at it, but it seemed like it was lagging behind where I was, and it was slowing everything down. So I nixed that. I'm positive that I don't know something that I'm supposed to know here, and that I am making a mistake, and I'm going to get that fixed. In case you missed my just get open speech, I am at the point where I felt like I should just get out here and get started, and I'm definitely off camera again. Good Lord. Okay. There we go. Maybe I just need somebody to stand here and film me. All right. Oh, that's important. No. One of my people told me I have my live comments turned off, so you can't comment on it anyway. So there you go. So that's funny. Oh man, I'll figure out how to turn that on, and then everybody can talk to me, I guess. I'm sorry if I've wasted anybody's time or made anybody angry. If you're angry about that, I really don't know what to do for you, though. Honestly, you're probably in the wrong place anyway. Again, trying to get down to those edges because I'm going to leave that. I'm probably going to do a color here. Either a leather color or maybe something a little bit brighter. So I want to get down there on that. But this is one of those places where we could definitely go this direction with these paints instead of going that way, because of the way this particular stuff it would have been made. Oh, I don't know. Something is disconnecting and reconnecting. Oh, it reconnected. I'm gonna have to get used to that one. Bling, 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 in and out. It popped in, it popped out. I guess I got dropped and got picked back up. I don't know. I've got a lot to learn about the streaming side of all this. So hopefully everybody can stick with me on this this journey, and I can get better, and we can all have a good time and a good laugh, and you guys can help me pick out what I need to paint next, and we can grow a little group of weirdos just painting along, doing whatever. We'll probably make some pieces that we'll paint. We'll probably print some pieces that we'll paint. We'll go buy some pieces that we'll paint. We're just gonna paint a lot of pieces. I got like 2 minutes left So this is that part where you say all the stuff you're supposed to say, the like, subscribe. Well, I can't comment because, well, my foolishness, I have the comments off. So we're gonna fix that later, or figure out that for the next session. It is a busy weekend for me, so I'll probably be back Monday, and we'll pick her up then. I might finish out. I'm probably gonna, like I said, I'm probably gonna mill put this, and I'll black out the rest of her cloak while we're gone. And I'll probably do all the rest of the blocking. I think everybody knows what a broom looks like, so we'll block that out as normal, and then I'll put in the white and the rest of we'll finish up the rest of the bone startups, and then we'll come back and we'll start the actual detail side of this stuff. And that's where everybody that's where it actually gets really exciting. This part of this is kind of tedious, and it takes a while to get it right. I am not sure what hair color I'm going to give her, so I'll save that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll save her hair color for the opening of the next video, and then everybody can jump on there and help me figure out what color I want to paint her hair, or we want to paint her hair. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great time, and we'll see you in the next one.